Right. So we're doing live streaming now. Okay. So let's get started. Om Agnanatimidandasya Agnananjalashalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahim Pradanti Swapradantikam. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Vedvyasa Priya Swaminiti Namini. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paske Pradeshatariki. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्णा एवरीवन. Thank you very much for joining us back. Today is the fifth day, chapter 5, an amazing chapter again, where a lot of questions are answered. A lot of questions of ours will be answered as well. So let's begin with a quick recap of what happened in chapter 4. Like I say constantly, there's no answer which is a wrong answer. Every answer is appreciable, and every answer is certainly knowledgeable. So um, anyone could help us recap what we've learned in chapter 4. You could unmute yourselves. Yes, Chandralekha
So
Mata.
we learned that what is the tradition were the disciple who were told to Bhagavad Gita,
Right,
starting from sun god, and then it was passed to their son, and then it was passed to Manu, and then to mankind. But
right.
then it disappeared, so that is why Arjun was told by Krishna about Bhagavad Gita. Then we learned about the calculations of
One
yoga.
after the other, Mataji. Thank you very much, Ria Mataji, for enlightening us with these points. Let's give the others some opportunity. I'd like the rest as well to have shed some light on earlier chapters. Chandralekha Mataji, you rose your hand up, so could you mute yourself and help us understand what you remember from the earlier chapter? Hare Krishna Mataji. Okay,
Hello everyone, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, okay. I'm not sure if Chandralekha Mataji is able to. Okay, okay. Chandralekha Mataji, would you like to say something, or anyone else? Okay, anyone else? Yes, Priyanka Paul Chakraborty Mataji.
Yeah, yesterday we actually learned about like Jana Yoga. So in that we came to know that it is a yoga of knowledge. So there it is spoken about Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, so we spoke about Jnana Yoga. So the chapter's name itself was Jnana Yoga, right? So it was all about the knowledge that we've received from the Supreme Personality. Yes, and we spoke
Right,
about,
Prabhuji.
right, so we spoke about the 12 authorities, right, who've seen Krishna. And what else? Thank you. Thank you very much, Priyanka Mataji. Yes, Sahasra Sharma Prabhu.
We learned about akarma, vikarma, and karma. And
Karma,
that four
karma,
yoga
karma. Right,
and that four yoga make Divya.
right. So basically, the calculation of Brahma's life, calculation of Brahma's seconds, minutes, and hours. Yes. Okay. What else?
Benefits of knowing Krishna.
Benefits of knowing Krishna, the very important point. Yes. What is it? What are the benefits of knowing Krishna?
One who knows the knowledge of Krishna and his activities, he cannot take again birth.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful. Yes. Janma karma cha me divyam. That shloka. Yes. Which clearly says the one who knows Krishna is never to return, and who knows the activities of Krishna would never return to this material earth. He will attain the supreme abode of Krishna. Yes. Wonderful. And then Krishna also spoke about surrendering onto him, right? And, reaping positive results, and explained how he appeared, the beautiful form that he appeared in, so on and so forth, right? So all of these points were discussed. Okay. Now let me share the screen. Give me a minute. Let me know if y'all are able to see the screen. My voice is clear, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, so is the screen visible as well?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, wonderful. The screen's visible. Right. Okay, so now this particular chapter, when did we discuss Karma Yoga?
Third chapter.
Third chapter,
Third
yes.
chapter.
Yes, so we spoke about Karma Yoga in third chapter. Now, the chapter number 5 is also Karma Yoga, but the difference is that chapter 3 chapter 3 was Karma Yoga only, just about the actions, right? Now, and this particular chapter, here we're talking about the actions in Krishna consciousness. That is
Nishkam Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga. Okay. All right. So here is a beautiful shloka. Now, almost every chapter starts with Arjuna's confusion. Okay, that is for sure. Without confusion, the chapter does not start, because if Arjuna is not confused, Arjuna is not asking questions in Yogamaya, then how would we get to know more and more? So here is a question that Arjuna asked. Sanyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam cha samsasi yachreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. Now, in the earlier chapters, Arjuna said ekam vadam. Okay, he asked, just tell me one thing. All right. And then he also spoke about sunishchitam, which is most definitely. That's what he's talking about here now. That's sunishchitam. And he also spoke about shreyanishchitam, what is best for me. And now comes fifth chapter, in which he's asking most definitely what is good for me. Okay, that is what he's asking. He says, "Oh Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work in devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me which one of the two is more beneficial?" Sunishchitam, more beneficial for me. Okay. All right. So let's understand which one is more beneficial. Now, here are certain, confusions that Arjuna has, misunderstandings that Arjuna has, right? In the chapters, in the earlier chapter, the second chapter, Krishna spoke about knowledge. He spoke about Dehino, means Dehinosmin Yatha Dehe. He spoke about Kaumaram Yovanam Jara. He spoke about Nayanam Siddhantam Shastrani, which is, the soul cannot be cut, soul cannot be burnt, etc. Right? So he spoke about all of those. All of this is pertaining to the knowledge of the soul that Krishna spoke. All right. And then he also spoke about the prescribed duties according to individuals, right? Which is according to the Varnas and the Ashramas. Okay. And then he spoke about the soul's entanglement due to fruitive activities. And then he spoke about disentanglement by devotional service. And in the third chapter, Krishna spoke about no duty for a person in knowledge. And then he said all kinds of sacrificial work culminates in knowledge. And then in the end of the fourth chapter, Krishna says, go get up and fight. Okay. Now, all of these are, too much for Arjuna to understand. If you put all of these together, he's like, you say this, you say that, you say this, you say that. First of all, he's in the full compassion mode. Now he wants, and then he surrendered himself. He said, do you remember the shloka in which Arjuna surrendered himself? Karpanya dosho pahatasva bhava. Right? So Arjuna surrendered himself. Now, after all of these confusions, misunderstandings, when Arjuna asked Krishna to clear the doubts, Krishna said, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Sanyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karavubhav tayostu karma sannyasa karma yogo vishishyate. Karma yogo vishishyate. So what is happening here? Krishna says renunciation of work in devotion is, or for that matter, now renouncing everything, which means leaving everything and just being a sannyasi is good. Okay, it's for liberation. And similarly, working towards the benefit or working for Krishna is also the same. So they both mean that you all are working towards liberation, that we're working towards liberation, right? But amongst these two, which one do you think is better? Leaving everything, renouncing everything, going to the forest and then being a sannyasi is better, or making use of, the things and that is for Krishna consciousness, which one is better?
Krishna consciousness.
Right?
Krishna consciousness.
Making use of things for Krishna consciousness is better, right? For example, let's just say Srila Prabhupada, if Srila Prabhupada wouldn't have used Jaladuta to go to the United States for the first time, if he would have thought, no, I'm a sannyasi, I must just walk, I must not make use of any of these, items, which are also, called as sense enjoyment, then would he have gone to America? Would he have, preached there? Or for that matter, after that incident, when he traveled to different countries in the flight, would he have been able to do that? Our Guru Maharaj, when he travels from one place to another place in the flight, is that for sense enjoyment? Now, the computer, the monitor, the laptop that I'm using, the printouts that I take, or for that matter, the Bhagavad Gita book that's printed, all of these, are these for sense enjoyment? These are advanced technology, right? We're making use of these advanced technologies, but we're making use of these advanced technology in Krishna consciousness for the service of Krishna. Okay, so that's what here Krishna's trying to say, that amongst the both, the one who renounces everything and the one who uses things for Krishna consciousness, both are for liberation. But amongst these two, the one who uses things for Krishna consciousness is at a better stage. That is much better. Okay, the example is very clearly shown. Can you all see the screen? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Do you all know the story of King Mrida?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Does anyone know the story of King Mrida?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Wonderful. Could you enlighten us with the story, Mataji?
There was a king whose name was Nega.
Your voice
And
is a
this
little low,
story,
Mataji. Could you speak a little louder?
this story is from Bhagavatam. There was a king, he was called Nega. He always gave charity to Brahmins. So one day he was giving charity to everyone. So one Brahmin came and he gave a group of cows for charity to a Brahmin. And Brahmin blessed him and left from there. So after this, without the knowledge of Brahman, one cow returned back again in the field of that kingdom. So, and that cow mixed with the other cows also. So the next day when king was giving the charity, by mistake, he was unknowingly, it was not mistake, unknowingly he gave that donated cow again. So that was the sin. And then the Brahmin gave him the curse that how can you give the donation which was already donated to the other Brahmin. So
Right.
he got curse and he got this life as this. That
Wonderful.
much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mataji. I hope everyone heard this. Was Yogita Mataji's voice clear to everyone?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So, yes, so that's a beautiful story, right? So King Riga is the son of Ikshvakumanu. We spoke about Ikshvakumanu yesterday, right? Now, in Krishna book, chapter number 64, it clearly mentioned that King Riga was so much into donating. He was fascinated by charity, right? He loved to do charity because people would appreciate him. So that's the fruit of action that he expected. People appreciating him, people loving him. That's the action, right? Now, and he was attached. He was thoroughly attached to the charity work. So, and the amount of cows that he has donated, that he's in charity, is uncountable. In Bhagavad Gita, I'm sorry, in Sri Krishna book, chapter number 64, it says the amount of cows are equivalent to the amount of stars in the sky, and it's equivalent to the dust in the planet. That's how many cows that King Riga has donated in his lifetime. Right? Now, the only sin that he has done was that he overlooked, he did not, pay complete attention, but he overlooked a cow returning and joining another herd, and then him, doing this charity again to another Brahmana, where you can see in the picture that the two Brahmanas are fighting, saying, "This is my cow, that is my cow." And when he donated, he didn't donate just the normal cows, he donated cows, beautifully decorated ones. The hooves of the cows had silver shoes, and the horns were had golden plates on them, beautiful golden jewelry on the cow. Such beautiful decorations that he did to the cows, and that's when he donated. So obviously, this particular Brahmana who got this particular cow the initial day remembers remembers the cow very well. So and then he goes back and says, "No, this is my cow," and so on and so forth. And then when the two Brahmanas start fighting, King Riga said, "Apologies that I overlooked all of this. I'll do this. I'll give you all 100,000 cows in exchange of this particular cow. Please do not fight." So both of the Brahmanas got furious that he is being so indecisive. He is not able to decide what to do. As a king, he should know that he's given the cow to me. He should not have given it to someone else. And then the cow has returned to the herd. He should have known, is what the first Brahmana thought. The second Brahmana thought, he should have known again the same thing. He should have known that once the charity is done, it should not have been given to another one. And now that he's given to another one, he should ensure that it gets rectified for the first one, not take this particular cow. So both of them had, their own takes on this particular thing. They got furious, and then they cursed him to become a lizard. All right. Now, after the death of the King Riga, now when the accountant was, accounting, he said, "Okay, now this is a sin. Of course, you've done a lot of pious activities, but the impious activity was this for sure, that you gave the same charioted cow to another Brahmana. So that's an impious activity. That's a sin. So you'd have to, reap results for your pious and impious activities. Which one would you like to go with first?" He was given this choice. So he said, "Okay, I'll go with the results of impious activity first, and then I'll take up the results of pious activities. I'll take the bhoga of the pious activities later." So then he was, then he became the lizard in the well, and of course, we all know that lizards live as long as 200 years. So he lived in the well for many, many years, a lot of years, until Krishna came and liberated him. And Krishna came and liberated him because Krishna's sons were playing with a ball. Of course, the ball at that point of time was totally different. So they were playing, and then something fell in the well, and then they saw a lizard, so they ran to Krishna and said, "There's a lizard." That's when Krishna came, saw, and then liberated this particular King Riga. Now, the story of this was, here, why did we talk about the story? Is because he was still attached to something, right? In the earlier chapter, we spoke about Krishna Be it him taking birth as as a cowherd boy, be it him taking birth as a king, Rama, be it him taking birth as different varnas in different ashramas. He was never attached to anything, right? So if you're attached to something, then that means you're expecting a result out of it. But here, what we're trying to say is work and do not expect any result out of it. Karma kar, karma kar, phal ki chinta na kar, right? This is the common saying that we hear again and again. This is exactly where it comes from. That's exactly what Krishna said, right? That particular common saying that we keep hearing day in and day out, or again and again, is from Bhagavad Gita itself, right? So that's what Krishna is trying to say, right? And let's see what's there in the next chapter. Now, here, it's a very beautiful point, which was mentioned by one of the Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami. He's one of the 6 Goswami who has written Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is called as the Nectar of Devotion in English. Okay. Now, he said, प्रपंच कीर्तया बुद्धया हरि संबंधी वस्तुना मुक्षभी परित्यागा वैराग्यम फाल्गुन कथ्यते. Now, does anyone know about the Falgun River? Anyone knows about what is Falgun River?
I know a little, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Please go ahead.
The river bed actually looks to be very sandy without any water, but if you dig, you can see water flowing beneath. That's all I know.
Yeah, almost there. So basically, the Falgun River seems as if it's very deep, right? The water is floating and it looks as if it's very deep, but when you put your hand, the bed touches your hand, it feels like the sand slipping already from your hands, right? That's how close it is. It's not deep at all. All right. So that's Falgun River. So here, Krishna is explaining to us and comparing the activities in the form of the Falgun River. He says a person eager to achieve liberation renounces things related to Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material. Their renunciation is called incomplete. For example, now I'm just saying I'm using a laptop. Oh no, my goal is not about material utilization. So let me just, give away. Let me just renounce this laptop. Let me just renounce all these beautiful books that we have. Let me just renounce the chair I'm sitting on. Let me just renounce everything. Go to the forest, do nothing. Then would I be able to pass on the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to anyone? I wouldn't be able to. Would I be able to talk to so many people from different parts of the country, sharing the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita? No. So here, if I do all of that and just go to the forest, leaving all of it, it is called incomplete renunciation. All right. That renunciation is incomplete. Okay. But which one is complete? The one which is making use of these items, these belongings, the material, all of these things in service of Krishna is the most apt one, is the most appropriate one. That's what we've discussed in the earlier chapters as well. Okay. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Prabhuji, I want to ask that King Nirga was doing the charity. He was doing a pious thing, but still he got the curse. Anyhow, he got the curse. What was the prarabdha? Like it was of his last life karma or this life's karma? I know he was expecting.
Sorry,
Yeah,
please.
he was expecting the karma, the result of his charity. He was expecting that also. So
It was the
is it
expectation.
expectation? So that's why he got the curse and all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the
Thank
expectation. That's why we say karma ki chinta na kar, right? So do not worry about the fruit of your work, right? If you're worried about the fruit, oh, if I pray to Krishna, then Krishna will grant me amazing house, then that praying is not the actual praying, right? We've spoken about this in the earlier chapters as well, in the earlier sessions. The most beautiful praying to Krishna is never asking him anything. Don't we know that Krishna knows everything? You know, nothing can happen without Krishna's knowledge. Even this particular session, the questions that you ask, even this finger that I'm raising, everything is all because of Krishna's permission. So doesn't he know what's right for us and what's wrong for us? A lot of people don't understand this and keep asking Krishna with the little tiniest knowledge that we have. It's like, you know, we have our brain. Our brain is equivalent to that of ant for Krishna. So just imagine for Brahmaloka that we've discussed yesterday, in 1 second of his 1,000 years, just 1 lakh years just passed by, which means in a blink of eye, everything is happening. So imagine his brain, Brahma's brain, quad pro. He has 4 heads, right? Quad pro. And then our brain is like an ant. So imagine if Brahma's brain is quad pro and our brain is an ant. Imagine Krishna's brain, where Brahma's coming from as well. Imagine Krishna's brain and compare it with our brain, with equivalent to not even a dust particle is our brain. We think this is best, that is best for us, but Krishna actually knows what is best for us. So do not worry about what you get in return. Just keep working towards it. But when you work towards certain things as well, do not get attached. Here, King Riga was attached to the charity work. That was his attachment, right? Do not get attached to anything that you do. That is the most important thing, the most important part that was discussed, right? And then
One question. So Nriga was expecting that people would like him in place of charity, right? This was the expectation.
right,
Okay.
right. And again, Nirbhaya Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Uchate. Now there are 2 types of sannyasis. Okay, one is Mayavad sannyasi and one is Vaishnava sannyasi. Now the difference is Vaishnava sannyasi is knowledgeable. He has knowledge. Okay, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, anything in relation to Krishna, Yukta Vairagya Uchate. That's the real renunciation. Anything that we use in service of Krishna is the actual renunciation. Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Mataji, please mute yourself. Okay. Let's go to the next chapter. All right, here it is. Now, Krishna repeats the same thing at least about 4 to 5 times in this particular chapter about, the dualities, about liking, not liking, staying connected, not being attached to your, work that you do and offer everything to this, to Krishna. That is what he's trying to say in all of these, not being attached. So here he says, one who neither hates nor desires the fruit of his activities is known to be always renounced. All right. Such a person liberated from all dualities. Some in 1 minute I say I want this, the other minute I say I don't want that. That is called duality. So an individual who is liberated from all dualities easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. Oh, mighty Arjuna. That's what Krishna says. Okay, now here it says Sumedha. Okay, that very important point. Now Sumedha means basically Krishna consciousness is for a very intelligent individual, because not anyone and everyone would understand. That's the difference between the Mayavadi sannyasi versus the Krishna conscious sannyasi or Vaishnava sannyasi, right? The Vaishnava sannyasi is Sumedha, a very intelligent one, therefore possesses the knowledge and understands that certain things are supposed to be used in Krishna consciousness. Okay, now, does someone know who you see on your screen? Who is the beautiful soul you see on your screen?
Haridas Thakur.
Chaitanya Prabhu.
Yes, Srila Haridas Thakur. Does someone know the story of Srila Haridas Thakur? Yogita Mataji said she knows. Okay, Yogita Mataji's already given a story earlier. Let me see if anybody else knows the story of Haridas Thakur. Anybody else? Dikshit Prabhu, would you like to give a try? Anyone else? Sahasra Sharma Prabhu? Moni Mataji? Okay, so we'll just go back to Yogita Mataji. So Yogita Mataji, yes, enlighten us with the story, please.
So Haridas Thakur was a Muslim from birth, but somehow he got interest in Harinam and he slowly he become the devotee of Krishna. Yeah. And then someone sent this beautiful girl. She was a prostitute, and the Qazi sent this beautiful girl to disturb his chanting and all, because he was very afraid of, like, he was angry that why he is chanting all the time of Krishna's name. So this beautiful girl came, and Haridas Thakur used to chant 3 lakh times in a day in 24 hours. So this girl came, and she wanted to disturb him, but Haridas Thakur was so busy in chanting all the day and night, and he just get up and eat a little, and again he start chanting, and then this girl was waiting 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, but Haridas Thakur was so busy in chanting. So finally, this girl also gave up, and then in the end, like third day, when the third day completed, this girl also said that it's impossible to make him to disturb him. So then she also become the devotee, and then after third day, this girl started chanting also. So this is the story.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mataji. Yes, Srila Haridas Thakur was born in the Muslim family, exactly like Yogita Mataji had mentioned. And as you can see in the picture as well, he was very young when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he was attached to Nama Sankirtana. Now, Srila Haridas Thakur is also named as Namacharya. He's named as Namacharya because he chanted 3 lakh times in a day. We are not able to chant 1 round, 2 rounds, 16 rounds. After 16 rounds, we're like, my voice. I'm tired. I'm feeling giddy. We do all of this drama, but Srila Haridas Thakur chanted 3 lakh times in a day by just sitting in that small hut, in that cave, that he chanted 3 lakh times in a day. That's why he was called Nama Acharya, right? And yes, because he was born in the Muslim family, a lot of people were envious, including the king and the Qazi, exactly like Yogita Mataji had pointed out. They were so jealous. First of all, he left the religion, and now he chants Harinam Sankirtan. Now he does Harinam Sankirtan. He chants Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day, and that too all day. So King and the Qazi said he is faking it. So don't believe him. And then they said, okay, I'll prove it to all of y'all. So they sent a beautiful prostitute who could lure anyone and everyone. So they sent this prostitute at night, at the midnight. So in the midnight, of course, even at that point of time, Haridas Thakur was chanting. So he said, and then when he saw this prostitute outside, he said, oh, yes, wait, I'm coming. I'll talk to you. Let me first finish my rounds. Then he was completing the rounds. It started, and then he was going on with the rounds, and then it was already morning, early morning, and then morning, sun rose, and then he was like, okay, let me just go and come back later. So he went and then came back the next morning. It was the next night. It was the same thing. Haridas Thakur said, oh, wait, I'll just finish my rounds and I'll come and attend to you. And then he was continuing with the chanting. The same thing happened. He was continuing to chant all night, and then she was waiting all night. She went back third day as well. That's how she continued. And then she asked Haridas Thakur, how is that even possible for someone to ignore this particular thing? How is that even possible for any mankind to ignore the pleasure of intimacy. I'm here to give you the pleasure of intimacy. Then Srila Haridas Thakur said, if you're talking about the pleasure of intimacy, then you have no idea of the pleasure of Nama Sankirtana. And then Srila Haridas Thakur explained about Krishna consciousness to this prostitute. And after some time, after a few days, the same place where Haridas Thakur was sitting in front of the Tulsi Devi's, pot, that's exactly where this particular, the prostitute also was sitting and chanting after. And then Srila Haridas Thakur left from there and went somewhere else. That's exactly where, the prostitute was also sitting and chanting. So that's the power of an individual believing. That's the power of an individual knowing what is right and what is not right, right? Which means he could not be, in spite of such a beautiful, she was the most beautiful prostitute of the entire Kolkata at that point of time, entire West Bengal. In spite of she being so beautiful, she could not lure Srila Haridas Thakur. That's how much engaged he was. That's how much, attached he was to just Nama Sankirtana. Here, the attachment is to the Nama Sankirtana, to the Lord, not to any materialistic things. Not even charity is called material, right? So it's not, this attachment is not the attachment that the King Driga had, right? So now let me ask you a question. How many of y'all know from the Vedas or from the books about an individual or any individual whose actions were never linked to the fruitive results?
Sudama.
Prahlad.
Sudama, yes. Prahlad Maharaj, yes. Now, when you talk about Prahlad Maharaj, now are we talking about Prahlad Maharaj at a young age, or are we talking about Prahlad Maharaj at the later stage when he became the king?
No, at the very young age of 5 years only, he got enlightened.
Yeah, yes, he was at a very young age, he was enlightened, but here we are talking about Bhakta Prahlada. After, becoming the king, he ruled the kingdom for the service, for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality, but not for his own pleasure.
Yes.
Right? Okay, who else? Does someone know the story of Dhruva Maharaj? A beautiful story of Dhruva Maharaj from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4. Yogita Mataji again. All right. Anyone else? Nobody knows. All right. So Yogita Mataji is my, the go-to person for all the stories. Okay. So yes, Yogita Mataji, please, if you could be a little louder. Okay. So let me do this. Because I'm sorry, Mataji. Keeping the time in mind, I'll just finish telling the story a little quicker. So what happened was, there was a king named Uttanapada. All right. Now this particular king had two wives. One is Suruchi, the other is Suniti. All right. Suniti was the first wife, so Suruchi was the second wife. Now Suruchi was this King Uttanapada's favorite. So both of them had a child. Both of the queens had one child each. Dhruva Maharaj is the Queen Suniti's son. So since the Queen Suruchi was the King Uttanapada's favorite, he ensured that he played and gave a lot of his time to Queen Suruchi's son more than Dhruva Maharaj. So one day Dhruva Maharaj wanted to sit on the lap of the king, but the king did not give him that particular opportunity, and Suruchi Devi took him away from there, and she said, if you want the throne, or if you want to sit on, forget about a throne, if you even want to sit on the lap of your father, then you would have to take birth from my womb. Since you haven't taken birth from my womb, you are not eligible for even that. So At the age of 5, Dhruva Maharaj didn't know what she was talking about. There was so much of pain. He felt a lot of pain after he heard all of this. He didn't know what to do. So all that he did, obviously, what do kids do when they're in pain? They rush towards the mother. So that's what he did. He rushed towards his mother, Suniti Devi, and then he asked, and then he said, "This is what the stepmother told him." But then, just before that, Suruchi, Queen Suruchi also said, so you'd have to go and pray to Vishnu to give you birth in my womb, give you birth from my womb. So that's what he told Suniti Devi as well, Queen Suniti as well. So Queen Suniti said, yes, your stepmother said right thing, but only the half. The half thing is, if you really want to be the king, if you want to achieve what you're not getting, then yes, the only thing that you can do is pray to the Lord Vishnu, pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he didn't know at the age of 5, where does he find the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He doesn't know who God is. So he goes to the forest in full anger and frustration, and he asks every animal that he comes across, are you God? Are you God? Are you God? He asks an ant, he asks the snake, he asks the elephant, he asks a giraffe, he asks everyone. Nobody responds. So looking at all of this, looking at this wonderful bhav of this cute child, what did the Lord Vishnu do? He sent Narada to accompany him. He sent Narada to guide him. So Narada came, and Narada wanted to now, because Narada is mischievous, so now he wants to test and see if Dhruva Maharaj is the right person to receive the knowledge. So he said, why are you doing this? It's so tiring. It's so hectic. That's okay. She said something. She'll forget it. You'll forget it. No worries. It is, a very strenuous task. You will not be able to do it. You're just a child, so you shouldn't worry about what she said. Go back home. Take care of your, basic stuff. Play around. That's all. Don't worry about it. So Dhruva Maharaj said, no matter what, I want to meet God. I want to see him, and I want to ensure that I get the entire kingdom. I want this entire kingdom. I just don't want to be the king, but I want the entire kingdom, is what he said at the age of 5. So that's when Narada was impressed about his firm steadiness. So he then, spoke about Krishna's, meditating. He instructed Dhruva Maharaj to meditate on the form of Krishna. So he continued meditating on the form of Krishna, the Lord Vishnu. And then he continued doing that for very long. And then he could finally see the form of Krishna in his heart. And then all of a sudden, the form of Krishna disappeared. And since he was chanting for so many days, he was chanting for so long, he could see the tattva, he could see the form of the beautiful form of Krishna in his heart. Now, when he was doing that, a lot of Devi Devatas just couldn't tolerate the amount of energy that was flowing out of Dhruva Maharaj. They rushed towards Lord Vishnu and said, please help us. You'll have to go meet Dhruva Maharaj. We are not able to tolerate the amount of energy that is oozing out of him. It is way too much for the entire planet. You'll have to do something. That's when Vishnu appeared in front of him. So he disappeared from his heart. Because he disappeared from his heart, his meditation broke, and he opened his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, he could see the same form that he was meditating on, the exact same form that he saw in his heart. It was exactly there. And looking at that particular form, he was so happy, and he just uttered beautiful prayers. He said, all this while I was just loitering for the glass, right? But glass is what the kingdom that he was looking for. I was just after the broken glass. The broken glass means the kingdom that he was talking about. And now that I've seen you, I found a real diamond in you. Of course, 5 years old Dhruva Maharaj was not able to offer prayers as beautiful as any sage could offer, but Krishna could understand the bhava. It was so pure. And then he says, now that I've seen the real diamond, I want nothing but just you. He was so happy looking at that beautiful form of Krishna. And Krishna being so impressed with Dhruva Maharaj after hearing this particular, prayers from him, he said, okay, I understand. And then he gave Dhruva Maharaj a loka, a different planet for himself. All right, that's called the pole star, Dhruva Loka. And guess what? Because Dhruva Maharaj said he doesn't want anything, he doesn't want no material things, although he was praying to Vishnu for a material thing. Now that he's seen the Supreme Personality, he doesn't want anything. Understanding this particular bhava, Krishna gave him a loka, complete, not just a kingdom, not just a village or a particular area to rule, but he gave him the entire kingdom. And the best thing that only Krishna can do, that only Krishna can shower the apology. The only Krishna can shower the blessing. Only Krishna can give such a thing, such a boon, that he gave the opportunity to Dhruva Maharaj of having his own loka, and Krishna himself became his Dwarapalaka. He himself became his doorkeeper, a personal doorkeeper. So that way, Dhruva Maharaj could see him every day and also have his own loka. That is a wonderful opportunity that Dhruva Maharaj had got, right? So here again, he renunciated. Of course, he had an attachment, but then when he saw Krishna, he, gave up all of it, and he said, I don't want anything, but just want to be with him. That's the mercy. If you give your fruitive results to Krishna, everything becomes elevated, right? If you're being, if you give in this particular material loka, if you give anything to anyone, if you give away entire bank account of yours to someone else, your bank account is empty. But that's not the case with Krishna. You offer anything and everything that you have for Krishna, everything will multiply in thousands and come to you, right? That is the blessing of Krishna. That's how merciful Krishna is, and that's exactly what it's what we're talking about here, which is Padma Patram Ivam Bhasam. That is a wonderful thing, which means people should be like an untouched water. People should be like the lotus leaf, which is untouched by the water, in spite of being in the water. That's again a clear and wonderful example that y'all can see of Srila Prabhupada when he traveled to United States, when he was chanting with hippies, sitting around with hippies and chanting in San Francisco. Hippie Hills is where he was chanting Harinam Sankirtana. Do you think he was under the knowledge or under the guidance of hippies? Did he get attached to the work of hippies, or was he touched by any of the deeds of hippies? No, if he would have been touched by the deeds of hippies, he would have become another hippie. We wouldn't have had Krishna conscious movement. We wouldn't have had ISKCON, right? But he didn't. In fact, instead, he ensured that he passed on this beautiful knowledge of Krishna consciousness onto him. That is exactly what Padma Patram Ivam Bhasam means, which means not being touched by anything that does not belong to you, not being touched by anything in the path of Krishna consciousness, anything that will, take your consciousness away. Okay? All right. So let's move on to the next chapter. I hope these screens are moving today, and I hope the screen's not stuck at one side. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. It's moving, Prabhuji.
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. So would someone like to take the opportunity? Let me see what the time is. Okay. So would someone like to take the opportunity to quickly recite the shloka? Yes, no. Okay, no. All right.
I'll
Yes,
do
Moini
it.
Mataji, go ahead.
भ्रमणे गविहस्तिनि सुनिचेव स्वपाके च पंडित समदर्शिना.
Right. So here, as you can see in the picture, there's a humble sage who's sitting in the forest. He looks at all of these animals coming towards him, and he gives the equal look to everyone. Why do you think he does that?
Because he see everyone equal,
Right? He sees everyone equal. Okay.
God in
And
everyone.
he sees who?
He sees God in everyone, Paramatma in everyone's heart.
Right. He sees the super soul. He sees the portion of super soul in everyone. That is a humble soul. That is a very important quality. Right. Now, what is the implication of that? Will such a person or such a humble person, what will he get? Being humble, looking at the super soul, looking at the soul in everyone and not looking at the outer personality or the deeds of them. What will you get out of it? Hare Krishna. What does someone get out of it? What do you think the sage got out of it?
Absolute truth, Prabhu.
Self-realization.
Okay. Respect. Him being, when you say self-realization, him being content with what he got, right? And him getting that peace. These are things that he received, right? Anyone who looks at the soul in an individual. Okay. So will
And
such a Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Guruji, equality.
Yes, equality. Equality basically is because he sees the soul in everyone.
Yeah.
Right? Right. Now, will such a person renounce everything or use things for the service of the Lord? The person who sees soul in everyone, or who sees the super soul in everyone, will such a person renounce everything, or will such a person use things for Krishna consciousness?
The second option.
Use things for Krishna consciousness, right? Because he is a humble sage, of course, has that knowledge, right? Now, because we see super soul in everyone, does that mean that we keep quiet even if someone attacks on us?
No, Prabhuji, we can't keep quiet.
Exactly, we should not. That's exactly what Krishna is trying to say, right? Because Arjuna was so much compassionate, he didn't want to fight. That's exactly why Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Just because you get confused with the philosophy of seeing super soul in everyone and you think that you're supposed to stay quiet, just like Mahatma Gandhi said, "Ek gaal pe chhapad mara to dusra gaal bhi do." If someone slapped you on one side of the cheek, give him another side of the cheek as well to slap. Right? If you do that, then what would happen? Would Bhagavad Gita have been spoken? Of course, there's a limitation, right? Of course, there's a limit to everything. That does not mean that, it's slapped on one side, then you ask the person to slap on another side is wrong, or you immediately jump to conclusion. You immediately take out your sword, and then, go for this yuddha of war, creates another Mahabharata. No. Okay. So what Mahatma Gandhi spoke also was, in the same lines, to maintain the peace in the entire country. That's the best that he could have done at that point of time. But what if, we do not react? If Arjuna like same story, Arjuna didn't want to react or act, and that is exactly why Bhagavad Gita is being spoken by Krishna to help Arjuna understand what is right and what is wrong. Correct? Right? If Arjuna
Yes.
would have seen super soul in everyone, and he could have justified the compassionate mode, and he could have left. Okay. Now here,
And
Krishna.
sorry to interrupt. Can we look this in this perspective? Like, if we are seeing supreme soul in someone, but vice versa is not there. Like they are not able to see supreme soul in everyone, and they are reacting like they are like doing bad stuff to us. So then we have to think what to do with that, like how to deal with that person or anything, like anyone.
Yes.
Can we see it like that?
Yes. That is exactly what is being spoken, right? So using things for Krishna consciousness. That does not mean that you act violently towards it, right? The best thing that His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada says is to disengage with certain things who take away your peace. Very simple thing. When I'm at work, there are a lot of people around me talk so many things. They don't understand what kind of conversation that they're supposed to have with a brahmachari. They don't understand their limits. They talk any and every, loose conversation that they could have with each other in front of me. All that I can do is tell them, no, that you're not supposed to do this, or I could just walk away. Because I know that, they're just trying to instigate. So the best thing I could do is just walk away, right? So that's all we can do. If someone's not understanding, if as you ask, if someone's not able to see the super soul in you or look at the soul in you, then we just have to walk away from that particular situation. We cannot take out talwar, a sword, and then take the neck away, separate the neck and the body from the person. Cool. So okay. Moving on towards the next slide, a very important one. Yehi samparshaja bhoga dukkhayonaya evate adi antavananta kaunteya nateshu ramanta buddhaha. What does this mean? An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to the contact with the material senses. Right? A very important point. Neither desire nor hate. Very, very important. Am I showing the same thing? Okay. So here, Krishna says, work in devotional service and you will be like a lotus flower. Lotus leaf, like we've spoken about yesterday. I'm sorry, not yesterday, just a while ago. This is called Vidhi Bhakti, right? Bhakti with regulations. Now, there are 4 principles, there are 4 regulative principles that our Acharya has listed. What are those 4 regulative principles? Does someone know? What are those 4 regulative principles? Hare Krishna.
No meat eating, no toxication.
Right.
No intoxication, and no gambling.
Right.
And no illicit sex.
Right. No meat eating, which means it takes away the element of mercy from you. If you're killing and eating an animal, it takes away the element of mercy in you. That's why no meat eating. No illicit sex means it takes away the element of cleanliness from you. And no intoxication. Why? Because it takes away the element of intelligence from you. And no gambling, because it takes away the element of truthfulness in you. All right. Now, this is the process of becoming a Sthita Prajna, firm, calm, and increase your wisdom. Okay. All right. Can someone explain to me what you all see? The images that you all see on the screen. What are those? We're almost nearing the end. We'll finish it quickly. Please answer quickly so we can finish the session quickly.
The flies near the lamp.
Flies near the lamp.
The light, but they are unaware of after touching the light they will get burnt. But still
these are those 5 senses, right? Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Yogita Mataji. So these are our 5 senses. The sense of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and then touching, right? So these are our 5 senses. Okay. The seeing part, the flies look at a beautiful lamp and rush towards it, and what happens? They get burnt, and by the next day they're dead. The deer that you see, the hunter is trying to play the flute to attract the deer, and the deer listens to it, walks towards the sound. What happens? The hunter shoots and the deer dies. The bee smells the beautiful flower and goes towards it, and what happens at night? The flower closes, the bee gets trapped and dies. The fish that you see, they are working towards the sense of tongue, taste. Therefore, they get trapped, die. The elephant that you all see, the she elephant, the female elephant was walking in front, and then the male elephant was walking behind, to get the touch of the female elephant. What happened? Fell. And then eventually, obviously, because it fell there, cannot eat, nobody to pull it back, it'll die. Right? So when you're working towards your sense enjoyment, things die. There is an end. That's what Krishna is trying to tell here. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Anything that has a beginning and an end, whereas Krishna consciousness has no end. It's eternal, right? The love of Krishna, the knowledge of Krishna is eternal. So do not, put your senses to use, put your intelligence to use, right? Here, as you all can see, we are in such a gullible position, gullible situation. A very, very important point. Sharira avidya jal, jodhi indriya tahe kal, जीवे पाले विषया सागरा तारे मध्य जीवे आरती लोभोमय what was that? Lovomay Siddhurmati. Right? What does it mean? That we forget our intelligence and then we work towards the sense objects, or the sense enjoyment. There's a beautiful shloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hare Krishna. Okay, there's a beautiful shloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita which I'd like to read. Kamidhinam what is it? Kamidhinam katina kalita falita durina desha. You see the rhyming? That's something that I love. Katina kalita falita durina desha. Tesham jathayana karuna na kripa. Which means here it says, oh Lord, there's no limit at all to the unwanted desires or the unwanted desires of the lusty desires. There is no control at all in this particular human world, in this particular these desires show no mercy on us at all. Please help to understand what to do. That's when the Bhagavad Gita shloka is clearly helping us. It's important to make use, like I said earlier, it's important to make use of the intelligence rather than making use of your sense enjoyment or the senses. Make use of intelligence so that your intelligence could control mind, just like we've seen in the earlier classes. And then the mind could control the senses. Don't let the senses control the mind and then mind control the senses. Don't let it go in the reverse order. That's an important point. Here, very important point again that Krishna is trying to talk about is Arjuna asks, how can we give them up? How can we give up these senses which are very close to mankind? Then he says, simply by knowing Krishna. All that you have to do is just know me. The sages knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material misery. Right? All that you have to know is any deed that you do, he is the benefactor of it. You are not the benefactor. You're only thinking to be a benefactor, but no, you're not. Okay? And if you know that, then you know how to act according to the situations and you will work towards it. So here's the summary of the entire chapter. Sannyasa or Karma Yoga, that's what Arjuna asked. Here, Yachreya, that's the key word. Which one is better? That's what was asked. And then Karma Yoga is greater than Sannyasa. That is Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Work in devotion. That was informed. Nishkama Karma. Frees one from bondage. Kurvanapina Lipyate. One who works in devotion and control his senses is dear to me, is what Krishna says, right? And liberation by focus on Supreme, what does it say? Gnanatvamam shantim rachati. Gnatvam shantim rachati. What does it mean? Krishna is the only enjoyer and he enjoys as long as you know that Krishna is the only enjoyer and you enjoy it because of his enjoyment. Doesn't it happen that we a lot of times just start laughing out loud because we see someone laughing out loud? Right? We don't know why is the person laughing, but we're just laughing because of the way the person's laughing. That's as simple as that. You are happy as long as Krishna is happy. So just know that he is the enjoyer, you're keeping him happy, and then you're getting the happiness because of him being happy. Right? All right. So that takes us to the end of chapter 5. Very beautiful chapter about karma yoga in the action of Krishna consciousness. That's very important.